Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Akshat, Senior Software Engineer at Smart Joules. Today I want to present our key lessons from improving the energy efficiency of hospitals using reinforcement learning insights from 39 deployments in India. In India, commercial residential buildings account for around 34% of total electricity, and nearly 45% of this energy is dedicated for space heating and cooling, out of which 49% of energy is consumed by the HVAC high side. Our organization has an ambitious goal. We wanted to cut down 29 million tons of carbon emission by 2030. With this in mind, we developed automation software that could produce using the minimal electricity by adjusting the that could produce the cooling by uh, by cooling the building interior to the outside using minimal electricity by adjusting the VFD frequencies and cooling towers and optimizing the chiller set point on the so as illustrated on the high side we have water cooled chiller configuration. We have components like cooling towers, condenser pump, primary chilled water pumps, and the chillers. Initially, we tried the simpler approaches like PID or rule based logic, but however, these proved unsustainable, requiring more than 200 hours of setups per site and struggling to adapt to the sudden changes either in the environment or in the load of the building. Eventually, we arrived at a model free queue based optimization engine. This approach required minimal resources and could operate on IoT enabled BMS system even in resource constrained environment. So as we explained, our deployment we expanded our deployment. We faced significant technical challenges in buildings and scaling our automation software. What seemed daunting at first grew even more complex with each site. Today, I want to walk you through the main challenges we encountered and the solution that enabled us to successfully scale this system to 39 sites. First challenge that we faced was winning the confidence of site engineers. When we initially deployed the system across multiple sites, we faced significant resistance from site engineers. They often switched to manual mode, feeling that they could either control the equipment better, but this was partly because of A, the software worked inconsistently across different sites, and B, they had limited understanding of the system's action. As we investigated, we identified several areas of improvement. First was adding visibility and transparency. To build trust, we needed to provide real time insights. We created dashboards to show system information, including what RL was observing, what actions it was taking, and how these actions influence the system over time. I'll show you a visualization of one of these dashboards in the next slide. Secondly, ensuring comfort. As we have heard a lot about the comfort that is very subjective to every individual, but it is also very subjective to individual buildings. Especially when we have a remote AHUs, that was a huge challenge to provide the comfort there. We had to install differential pressure sensors on individual AHUs to ensure that we had the adequate flow that acted as a baseline for the reinforcement learning to further do the optimization while maintaining the essential comfort requirements. Thirdly, handling drastic observable changes. Now, when I say observable, these observable like wet bulb or the tonnage was one of the few things that could change and that could change even drastically, which could sometimes lead to higher energy cost. From user behavior data, we realized that these actions were actually effective when observable crossed certain threshold. To address this, we introduced optimization ranges. Within these ranges, RL could operate normally, but when these observable went out of bound, a fail-safe mechanism kicked in, automatically adjusting the controls to bring observable back in the target range. Thirdly, addressing power and network failures. In deployments across third tier cities in India, frequent power cuts and network outages pose additional challenges. During these power failures, the plant got turned off and it has its own sequence to turn it back on. We introduced sequences powered by the fail-safe mechanism. We were able to bring back the plant in the healthy state without any manual intervention. These sequences are nothing that is related to the reinforcement learning, but to have a scalability, to have a deployment, we had to build infrastructure around it that could support the reinforcement learning to work free from any manual intervention. In case of network outages, our RL agents operated on central controllers, while edge controllers executed the command. These edge controllers were basically the controllers where the physical equipment was connected. During the certain network failures, the system would fall back into a user-configured save command. This approach prioritizes comfort and stability, even if it occasionally increases power energy consumption. As you can see from the graph, initially when we started the deployment, we had a percentage of automation for 60%, but over the time it degraded. It went to 20%. Then then doing a lot of changes, like I mentioned before, adding visibility, comfort, handling drastic changes, and all of that. Eventually, we went to 92% by the end of the 2023. So this is the visualization that I mentioned before. We developed it for SEs and the analysts. This visualization highlights the Q values of different actions over time, showing the steps RL evaluates as optimal for reaching the target conditions. This tool not only helped end users, but also allowed us to refine RL model itself. For instance, we identified that we were reacting too quickly or rewarding or penalizing commands unnecessarily. Adjusting our approach based on the insights and tuning the sample rate based on the data, which led to a further improvement of 9% on multiple deployments. Second challenge was optimizing the target settings. As we talked about, the PID or the rule-based engines required a lot of manual intervention. With the RL asking users to put in the targets for any of the equipment, it was a tedious task. They required 2 to 3 hours per week, and then scaling to 40 sites, that would require a lot of manpower just to put in an optimal target for an RL. But they were using design data and the environment condition, which was not feasible at scale. We introduced deep learning models to predict optimal settings. For example, we trained a model to estimate possible condenser delta temperature based on environmental parameters like percentage capacity, TDS, SCTA, and wet bulb temperature. Then we used another model to predict chiller consumption for various condenser delta. By testing different deltas, we identified the target that minimized the chiller energy consumption. This strategy applied in data-rich sites resulted in up to 7% savings across deployments. We couldn't deploy it on all the sites, as I mentioned, that it required significant amount of data to train these models and have an accuracy that can actually yield in certain saving and can provide an optimal target. We have been talking a lot about this evaluation. I've been mentioning that we were able to provide saving of 5% or 7%. I also wanted to share how we accurately evaluated the impact on the system. We created bins based primarily on two uncontrollable parameters: wet bulb temperature representing ambient conditions and tonnage representing the building load. Tonnage was built in the increments of 5% of the total chiller capacity, while wet bulb temperature was built in 0.5 degrees Celsius steps. These values were chosen based on how IKW per TR, which is the consumption of the high side equipment divided by the tonnage delivered, varied with changes in tonnage and wet bulb, as well as the availability of the data points for comparison. In cases where there was imbalance of data points between two time frames, we applied a weighing approach. Aligning the analysis to the lower number of data points, this weighing helped us reduce any bias due to differences in data between the two time frames. As shown in the diagram, we have time frames T1 and T2. We have these. Okay. Oops. Okay, there's a missing slide, but yeah. So as you can see, this is one of the visualization from a site where we have bent the data for chiller plant efficiency. This is bent for tonnage and wet bulb. You can see this is for the 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 150, and 150 to 200. And on the right, you can see the wet bulb bends on the 0.5 degree steps. This way, once we have this bent data, we could compare TF1, we could compare different parameters such as the efficiency, the chiller efficiency, or the equipment efficiency directly one-to-one. This normalization helps us evaluate. So this is one of the, for instance, this is from a site in Trivandrum in India where condenser pump frequency decreased by 21%, chiller water pump decreased by 6.69%, cooling tower frequency remained the same, and the chiller plant efficiency improved by 5.33 overall. Finally, we were able to deploy it on 39 sites, and we evaluated for 21 sites. Given there were a lot of new sites that were coming in, this particular automated software was deployed on the day one. You can see from the results that we were able to reduce the energy, if we could be able to improve the energy efficiency for 12 sites, while some sites remain the same and few even fall back. And we even we have a worse site for -6% in efficiency change. So why all of these were happening even while solving multiple challenges? In the future prospects and discussions, that is where we aim towards uh, reducing all the negative numbers from the last slides. So firstly, we would like to start with intelligent asset selection. We aim to develop capabilities for automatically selecting combination of assets to operate based on their overall impact on system efficiency. This would enable a more dynamic approach to resource allocation, allowing the system to adapt based on current demands and condition. Refining the comfort index definition. Comfort is subjective and varies by site. A more precise and site-specific definition of the comfort index could help the system better balance energy saving with occupant comfort, particularly in varied climate and operational challenge conditions. Thirdly, we want to streamline configuration. Right now, there is a lot of configuration that user has to put in. That includes the targets that I mentioned. We don't have all the deep learning models that could accurately put in the targets automatically, but that's where the next work lies. Finally, we want to add predictive diagnosis. By adding alerts for fault diagnosis, we can enable early detection and quickly resolution of issues within the system. This proactive approach would improve the reliability of the automation system and minimize any operational disruptions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Akshit. We have time for one quick question before we go. Oh, multiple ones. Just those two then. Okay, right behind you.
Hi, so Jesse Codling, University of Michigan. I'm wondering, so you were talking about some of the challenges you ran into specifically because it's a commercial environment where you've got separated air handlers and a fair distance from air handlers to vents and the separated chiller as well. Do you think some of these models that you've started to train would be able to be applied also in a residential environment where there's frankly a lot more buildings available, but maybe some of the challenges are a little bit changed?
In the residential building, specifically in India, we don't have like the centralized cooling system. We have the specific like a room to room and air conditioning system. So that's where I don't believe that we could apply these models there. But given if there is a centralized cooling system that is available, we can use the same strategy to train a model for that specific building and probably try it out.
Okay, and so how much of the models that you're using have to be trained then per individual building versus being able to be transferred between buildings?
We are right now not able to implement the transfer learning because given that there is a very specific site, it has a lot of it's in itself has a lot of metadata, like how big is the site, how many occupants are flowing in and out on a regular basis. So right now, transfer learning is not something that we have implemented. We are definitely working towards it if that can be implemented. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, Shubham from UC Merced. Can you go back to your deployments? Yeah, over here, like overall your results look pretty good, but can you share some insight into like why some of the negative results might be coming? Because it seems like on the same site in the same location, you show like 31% improvement, while in Chennai again, like you show like -2%.
Yeah,
so what could
absolutely.
be the reason?
So there are like these sites, they are either very old sites or some are very new sites. So given if this is an old site, there are ineffective equipments that are present. So as I mentioned in the future prospect that we want to automatically select the assets that are operationally have the better efficiency. So first, when we identify that there are assets that have poor efficiency, we want to remove that. Either do the retrofit or maybe redesign the plant and then try to run this system again. So it is not from the because the reinforcement learning failed, it is because of the sites that were not able to perform better. It also includes the fault tolerance that given equipment fails, things like that also happened while we were evaluating. So all of that added together shows a negative impact.
All right, just follow up really quick because initially you mentioned like it was hard to convince people to adopt this. Do you think there would be a better way to convince people to replace the equipment or?
Actually, so as our business model, what we do, we basically get paid if we save energy. So if we think there is an ROI, we will themselves we will put in the money and replace the equipment. And we have done it for multiple sites. I think more than 20 sites we have done it already.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Max, Akshit.
Thank you.